to show you how to make a spiralized zucchini noodle with a pesto chicken meatball. So this is a low carb dish. It's just one of those things that I think a lot of people would be really interested in learning how to make, specifically the spiralized noodles. They're zucchini noodles and a lot of people like making them, but they aren't really sure how to do it correctly. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And we're going to make the meatballs first. So the meatballs, we've got a nice collection of healthy, really easy to find ingredients, and we're just gonna mix them all up. So I'm only doing half a recipe, but for the full amount, you're gonna use a pound. So what you see is only half of it. So I've got 8 ounces of chicken, ground chicken. I've got my pesto, so I've got a little bit of pesto, 2 tablespoons. If you wanna make your own, you can make your own, or you can use store-bought. Either one's okay. Now here's where you're gonna get some extra nutrition. Instead of breadcrumbs, we're gonna add oatmeal. So we're gonna add whatever you have. If you have rolled oats, use rolled oats. If you have quick cooking ones, use quick cooking ones. I'm adding half an egg because this is, again, just one recipe, but I've halved it, and so that's why it kind of looks funky, half an egg. And then I've got a little bit of Parmesan cheese. If you don't want to use Parmesan cheese, the best thing that you can add for this to actually make it healthy would be nutritional yeast. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to give this guy a little bit more moisture and flavor. And I'm going to grate about a half an onion for the full recipe, or about a quarter of an onion for this little bit. So what I'm using is the small side of the grater. And I'm just going to grate about half of this half, so about a quarter of it, straight into the mixture, just like that. And then I'm going to use my other hand and go in there and just kind of grab some. That'll give some extra flavor to all of this, make it taste really yummy. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this guy up. You don't want to overmix this, because if you overmix it, what ends up happening is you'll end up with tough meatballs. It's the same thing when you make burgers. You don't want to overwork your dough, because it'll just end up tasting overworked and chewy. We want a nice, light meatball to go with our pasta. So there we go. That's all I'm doing. Now I'm going to grab a cookie sheet, and you can line it with parchment, you can line it with foil, or just give it a good squirt of oil. And we're going to make meatballs out of this. So I can make probably about 18 to 20 for the full recipe, and then about 9 for this half recipe. And if you notice, what I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of the oil that I drizzled on here and pushing it to the side to help it prevent it from sticking when we get these guys going. So we're just gonna make 9 meatballs out of this mixture. If you want bigger ones, of course, make bigger ones. Or if you want smaller ones, make smaller ones. The great thing about this recipe is we're gonna bake it in the oven. We're actually not gonna even cook it on the stove. So while you're baking this in the oven, you can make your noodles, and you can have dinner done in probably about, let's be honest, 45 minutes, not 30 minutes. Just to get everything ready, that's why. So we're almost there. Got about 9, maybe 2 little mini ones towards the end. Some people will go as far as weighing all of this out and then portioning it. You don't have to do that. You can if you want, obviously, but no need to. So I'm going to take my gloves off, and I'm going to put these in a 375-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, depending on your oven and so on. All right, so let's get our pasta going. So for our pasta, we're going to use a spiralizer. So if you don't have a spiralizer at home, there's a whole bunch you can buy. And the great thing is, if you have a grater, just use your grater. Or if you've got great knife skills, use your knife skills. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get long strands of zucchini that look like noodles. So when you eat a noodle, it's not like you're eating a huge, long strand anyways. And so what I like to do is I like to cut my zucchini in half. There's a couple of different spiralizers out there. There's the hand crank one, and I like that one. That one does an amazing job. It just is really awkwardly shaped and doesn't really fit anywhere in your house. So There's this guy that you can buy on Amazon. I can't remember what it's called. You can email me if you want. But it's super easy to use because all you're gonna do is you're gonna take your zucchini. I'm gonna trim the other end though. Oops, excuse me. I'm gonna stick this guy right on top and then you just turn. Now that comes with a top, and I know I'm supposed to use it, but I'm too tempted to use my hands most of the time. But what ends up happening is it'll spiralize this beautiful zucchini into strands for you. When you're looking for a zucchini to make spiralized pasta, what I want you to do is look for pieces that are not too large, rather they're long and they're firm. They're not spongy. You don't want it to be spongy, that's why. So I'm gonna keep going until the very end. And you're usually left with a pocket of seeds or like the really middle core of the spiral of the zucchini. You can do this with carrots, you can do a whole bunch of different veggies. So there are recipes that tell you to then take these spirals and sprinkle a little bit of salt on top of them, salt them, and then let them sit. I don't like doing that because it just ends up with, you end up with mushy zucchini. That's perfect, and then you end up with the core. I can take it out this way. And there's the core, okay? A little bit of a waste. Now, you can cut these if you want. I don't like to because sooner or later when we're tossing it in here, it'll kind of soften up and break apart. So I'm gonna turn on my stove. I'm gonna turn it up pretty high as possible, because this is gonna go real quick. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, I have a tomato that I'm gonna make my sauce with, and then I'm gonna add some baby spinach too. The one thing I wasn't able to find in the store and I would suggest you add it is basil. So if you've got like a handful of basil, about the same amount of spinach, it really makes and breaks this dish sometimes. And then garlic, of course. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna chop up our garlic and tomato. So I'm just gonna do a dice on the tomato. Nothing's fancy, but what we're gonna try to do is get the juices out of the tomatoes to make almost a nice sauce for everything. I'm gonna stack them up tall and then dice. Just like that. And then the other end, I'm gonna take off the top. We don't want that end, the stem. And I'm doing, again, half the recipe. So it doesn't seem, it's about 2 zucchini. So about 1 zucchini per person is enough. So there's my tomatoes. And then my garlic, I'm just gonna do a nice mince on it. I'm gonna crush it, peel. And my pan's getting nice and hot at this point. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna cook my garlic and my zucchini first with a little bit of chili flakes if you want. Just makes it that much better. And it's gonna be quick. So I'm gonna have a bowl ready to pull out my zucchini actually, because we're gonna do this in steps, but it's all gonna be done in one pot. So we got our zucchini and that ready to go. I've got my crushed red peppers. So I'm gonna coat this pan first with a little bit of oil. A little bit, sorry, that was a little much. And then I'm gonna sprinkle in a little bit of pepper flakes. And then our So I got a nice hot pan now. I'm gonna coat with a little bit of oil, just a little, all you need. And then I'm gonna add my garlic and a little bit of chili flakes, just in there. Careful though, because it'll kind of come up at you, the chili flakes, if you're not quick. And then I'm gonna add my zucchini in real quick. And stir it around. Now don't use your hand. I again have no feeling on those fingers somehow. And so all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do this for about a minute or two, just until I can feel that zucchini kind of start to soften up. And then I'm going to pull it out. And I'm constantly stirring this. I haven't added any salt yet, because if I add any salt, it's going to start wilting it and softening it up. And we want our zucchini al dente. We don't want it soft and mushy. We don't want bad zucchini. So you want to do this in really high heat and really quick. So that's all I'm doing. I'm just kind of pulling up at the strands. And this is why I don't like cutting them, because I feel like sooner or later, if they're going to break, they will break on their own. So that's it. That's all I'm going to do. They feel nice and soft. I'm going to take them out now, and I'm going to continue making my sauce. Or maybe a little bit more. There's a little strand in there. All right, there we go. Nice and softened up a bit. I'm going to pull this out and put it back in my plate. I'm going to add a little bit more oil into the pan now. And I'm going to add my tomatoes to start almost making a sauce out of it. Water if you ever feel like you want to make more of a sauce out of this. I like it nice and fresh like this because the sauce kind of weighs down on the pasta then if you add too much. So there's that. Now comes the fun part. We're going to add nutritional yeast if you want nutritional yeast, or I'm going to add some Parmesan and my spinach. So I'm going to add my spinach first. Let that wilt down. Before I add my Parmesan cheese though, I'm going to start a slurry. So this is the kind of a trick that I like to make more of a sauce, to help it make more of a sauce. I'm going to stir this until it wilts. And then I'm going to add this mixture of cornstarch and water, and it'll create a thicker sauce then, kind of like if you were cooking with pasta water. So now I'm going to add my reserved zucchini. And then finish it off with my Parmesan cheese. Let that cheese kind of melt down into that sauce. I'm going to turn that off. There's that ready to go. Let's go check on our meatballs. I cheated. I made them ahead. So we have our meatballs done and ready to go too. So I just baked them off. So what we're going to do now is we're going to plate up. So we're going to plate up. This serves 2 people, so. And if you have kids that don't like zucchini, or you don't think you like zucchini, do what I do with most things for kids, which is substitute half of it for the real stuff and then slowly start eliminating it. And you'll notice a huge difference. They'll start eating things. Got my spaghetti or my zucchini pasta. I'm gonna put a few of these meatballs right on top, or on the side actually. Just like that. Put a little bit of this tomato mixture right on top, just like that. And then if you want, go ahead, there's that. We're gonna take a little bit more Parmesan cheese. There you go. Perfect chicken zucchini spiralized pasta. See you next time.